Hello Dolphins, it's me, Mrs. Burns, with your next installment of Classroom Cooking. Sadly, we're still not in school, but it's wonderful that you're able to join me here in my kitchen. And today, we're going to be making corn fritters from our cookbook that we use often at school, Kids Around the World Cookbook. So this is not my recipe. We owe this to Dairy Robbins, and this book is illustrated by Charlotte Sowell. It's a Kingfisher book. So we use this in school to pretend to travel around the world and eat exotic food. So today is corn fritters from Indonesia and Thailand food. It's an Indonesian and Thai food. These normally would be sold from a food truck on the street, where you would simply get a napkin or a type of paper towel or something. You would eat the food, throw it away, and you would walk away. There would be no dishes, no silverware. It's a really fun food. And we're going to have some new ingredients today. So, with that said, here we are. Today our ingredients are whole kernel corn. I got mine from a can. Always a flip top can is best in case you don't have a can opener. But it's always okay to use frozen whole kernel corn if you let it thaw first and it's room temperature. You don't want to cook it when it's still frozen. Okay? So we have 1 can of corn. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that into this bowl right here. Okay? A second. We'll put that right in here. I'll even pick up the few that I dropped. There we go. Our next ingredient is 1 onion. Now, to save time, I pre-chopped our onion. I use a knife and a cutting board. And so that's not something you kids can do, but you can ask a very much older brother or sister or a grown-up that lives in your house to cut that for you. Some people have fancy tools like food processors or a thing called the slap chop. If you have those, you can probably do it by yourself with help. But for now, we cut that up. So this is 1 small onion, and we're going to put that right in there. However you chop it, you want it to be super small pieces. Our next ingredient is chili, is hot red pepper. You can use chili pepper or you can use cayenne, but you don't want to use a lot. So this is already ground up for us. We use 1/2 of a teaspoon. So we use our measuring spoons, which we use mostly for spices and things. And we look for the one that says 1 teaspoon. It may say it on the handle. Sometimes it says it in the bowl, and sometimes it says it on the back, but it will always have the correct measurement for you. So you always want to make sure that it's not too heaping, that it's pretty flat. And we want to sprinkle whenever we put our spices in. We really don't want to just plop it in one space, because if we do, and we don't stir it well enough, we may get a whole big mouth of hot pepper, and that definitely would not be that good. Our recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. I have garlic in the garden, but it's not ready yet. So we already had some minced garlic in our refrigerator. We're going to use that. And I looked it up online, and it says that 2 cloves is about 1 teaspoon. So that is what we are going to use. 1 teaspoon, okay? And we're going to sprinkle it around a little, although that's going to be much, much easier to stir in. There. Now, sometimes you have to use more than 1 teaspoon. So I'm fortunate that I have more than 1 set because I'm lazy and I don't like to wash things right away. Our next ingredient is 1 teaspoon of ground coriander. This is coriander. It's not a very common spice for a lot of people's cooking, but it's really good. And you can even get it at Dollar Tree or Ocean State Job Lot for very, very little money if you want to try it out. So we're going to sprinkle our coriander in. Now, this next one I want to talk to you a little bit about. Our next ingredient is green onion. Now, I have green onion in the garden, so I went out and picked some. I left this one just to show you what it looks like. It's like a miniature onion. This part can be sometimes straight, and then the greens and the roots. Now, the green onion, you can eat the whole thing. This part, the bottom, all of it. So if you purchase them at the store, one of the things I want you to remember is if you cut off the top part, but you leave some roots in this little bottom part, you can actually put this in a pot with some potting soil and water it, and it's going to grow back. And you can keep cutting it off and eating the same one over and over again, and you only have to buy it once. So these little ends I will bring back out to my garden later on and plant them so that next time we need green onion, we just have to pick them one more time. Alrighty, so our next ingredient is 3 tablespoons of flour. Now on our measuring spoons, the tablespoon is the biggest measure that we have. No matter what set you get, it doesn't matter. The tablespoon is always going to be the biggest one. We scrape off the top to make sure that it's nice and even. We don't want too much. And we're going to sprinkle that 1, 2, and 3. And again, I don't know if you saw me, but I filled it and ran it along the side to take off the extra, to make sure that I wouldn't have too much. And that always works. We shouldn't be using our fingers and things to kind of scrape stuff off, because even if we wash our hands, well, it's just not a good practice. There we go. Our next ingredient is 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Baking powder is actually a mixture of cream of tartar and baking soda. So if you don't have any baking powder and you have the other ingredients, you can go online and look at what the measurements are, and you can actually create your own. The baking powder all cans, no matter what brand, have this, it's a part where they didn't open it all the way. And the reason is when you scoop it, okay, you can use that to pull your spoon across to get exactly the correct amount with no extra. Baking powder is what helps our muffins rise up and be puffy. Some breads rise up and be puffy. So you don't want to have too much because, well, things can end up misshapen or they taste funny. So you want to make sure you do it right. Our next ingredient is a pinch of salt. Now, believe it or not, a pinch is an actual measurement. What I do is I put a small amount of salt in my hand, and this is okay to use your hands for this. You pinch. Take as much as you can fit in a pinch and sprinkle it around. And that's actually a pinch. So, we add our green onion that I have already chopped up, and we're going to put that in. Now, I know we added the other onion. I believe they added the green onion to enhance the flavor, but also so that they could add color, because otherwise everything in here would be yellow and white and not that really good looking. So by adding a little bit of green onion, it kind of makes it more attractive. Now before we add our last ingredient, I want to show you over here, I have my cast iron pan. And in my cast iron pan, I put a small amount of oil. Actually, I put 4 tablespoons of oil. We don't use any fancy oil. You want to use vegetable. So our last ingredient is an egg. So I'm going to break the egg and put it in. I know how much you all who have me for cooking love to break eggs, and I'm sorry that you can't be here to do it. But for now, that's just me. So this is what our concoction looks like, not stirred. Okay? These away for now in the sink later. Move our cookbook out of the way so we don't get food on it. And I'm going to stir this up really, really well. Now, when you're stirring, you don't want to do it quickly. You want to make sure that you're mixing all your ingredients. For instance, if you don't mix the egg in well enough, it won't stick together because the egg helps it to stick together. It's what we call a binder. And you want to make sure your flour and your seasonings and everything are spread out. So in just a minute, we're going to put some in here in our pan. There we go, because it's just about up to temp. So we're going to take small amounts and put them in the pan and kind of push them down a little. Okay? And those are going to cook in the oil. You might hear a little sizzling. Now, we don't make them big. It says right in there that these small fritters are sold. So you probably get a few when you go to the stand to buy them, or to the food truck. But they are not big. They cook very quickly. So we're going to watch these cook, and we're going to be back in just a few minutes. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back. So we took a little break while I cooked some of the corn fritters, and I have some here, and I have more in the pan. And one of the things that you have to do is you've got to cook them halfway, and then you flip them over so both sides are nice and cooked. Then they stay together. You also want to drain off some of that oil, and although there's many fancy things, I always just use a brown paper bag like the kind we get from the grocery store. And if there's writing on the outside, cut it open and flip it over and use the inside part where there's no writing on it. And then they're ready to eat once they're cool enough. So let's see. Very delicious. Now, I know that you often get corn in your weekend backpack boxes. So what I would suggest is that if you're tired of just eating plain old corn, that you try this recipe, which you can find at hps.com, and this along with this video to show you how to make it, and try these corn fritters and let us know how they turn out. Until then, until next time, I'm Mrs. Burns with Dolphin Classroom Cooking. See you soon. Bye.